Hello again and welcome back. To anyone who's joined us a number of times, it's a great pleasure to have you here. It's a great pleasure to be doing this actually. We're working with Ecotourism Australia, interviewing some tremendously exciting people doing some amazing work in the tourism industry in Australia. I'm delighted to be joined here today by Jenny Edmondson of Wavelength Reef Cruises, who is based out of Port Douglas. Hi Jenny, how are you?
Really great, thanks. Great to be with you.
So, what's life like up on the Northern Reef at the moment? Have you been able to get out at all?
No, we have, yes. And after some very bad press about bleaching in the area, we've been quite heartened to find that at the sites where we spend most of our time, we have 18 sites, and probably about five of those are very well used by us. There's very insignificant bleaching, which is a huge relief to us. So, yeah, there is hope for that things will be totally normal again with it by the time we get to sort of June.
Well, that's always encouraging to hear. Um, Now you run a snorkeling trips exclusively snorkeling trips. Tell me a little bit about your particular way of doing things and the experiences you've had in the past that have led you to what you do today.
Okay, well, we've been involved in marine tourism for, gosh, probably 25 years on and off. And the beauty of Wavelength was that it was set up by a marine biologist in 1989. It had a number of very excellent sites out on the Barrier Reef, and he actually chose those specifically for snorkeling. So they're quite shallow and pretty, lots of diversity, clear water, and really quite unsuitable for diving. I think the maximum depth at most of the sites is about 7 meters, and that would be it might involve a little bit of digging. um, so yeah, this guy had a vision, and we carried it on. It's small groups, so that you get that intimate feel on the boat. It's not just a big ferry with mass market tourism. The crew are all marine biologists, and we're just out to show people the beauty of the reef. And the major message is that we tell people on the way out to the reef is that when you get in the water, you need to take things nice and slowly, because otherwise you're going to miss the bulk of all the beauty and the small things and the things that dive undercover when something large and noisy and splashy goes past. So we liken it to going to an art gallery, and obviously if you go to an art gallery, you don't sort of run around, mosey about and sort of poke into the corners, and you appreciate things and watch things for a while, and you can pick on behaviors and see things that you otherwise would miss. And that is that people really appreciate that they've often been on many other tours all around the world, and yeah, we obviously have done the same and picked up on this thing that often people just get in the water and they plow through, and they don't actually really see much, especially things like turtles and sharks, which can pick up that you're around, and they just head off before you even see them.
I'll show a bit of video of the kinds of things that you do. Just take me through, yeah, take me through what we're seeing here.
Sorry, which video are you showing?
Oh, you're looking at my. We're looking at the pictures of the wildlife, dolphins and so on. I just realised we reconnected a second ago, and I had my screen shared with you, but you're not able to see what I'm seeing now. You may be able to see it
Yeah,
now.
sorry.
So we've got some
Yeah,
beautiful
okay.
shots of people snorkeling on the reef. Um, Look, your background, you were telling me, I mean, you haven't always enjoyed the crystal clear blue warm water of the Great Barrier Reef, have you?
No, far from it. I grew up in the Hebrides in Scotland, and my dad was always a keen diver and used to spend quite a lot of time getting scallops. And the water there's so murky that you really have got no idea, apart from the intertidal areas, what's happening under the water. And when I learned to dive when I was about 16, it was just so fascinating, the beauty of it all, and the diversity, and the interesting things that I was absolutely fascinated and could spend hours down there. Um, yeah, and I ended up doing commercial diving as well, and diving became a really big passion. So I suppose it is quite ironic they end up running a snorkeling company. Really. it fits in really well.
And now you get to spend time on in some of the most beautiful landscapes on Earth.
Absolutely, and it is so nice I actually have a suite of different size of thicknesses of wetsuit. I hate being cold, having done many winters in Scotland, having to go out every day in the sometimes with ice on the water getting in, and it sort of stuns your brain when you get in the water. So it's such a blessing to go out, and a lot of the year it's just balmy, sort of 25 to 27 degrees, and everything's just beautiful and so clear.
But we're here to talk about the you're eco accredited and the work that you do. You've got I guess what's fascinating about this is that you're involved. You set up the coral nurture program. So you set up a program to regrow corals. Now, 10 or 15 years ago, we wouldn't have been thinking about doing this. So this is, in a way, it's groundbreaking science. The work that you do is now being used by other operators and so on. I'm going to show a little bit of video of your project. Can you just talk us through what we're seeing and in this video and the work that you do with that program?
Okay, Simon, sorry, if you can put me onto the screen so I can see the video. Apologies.
I thought I'd already done that. Just one moment. Okay, we'll start that video. We'll start that video a second time. So the video we're looking at here, which I'll play again in a moment, is of your coral restoration program.
Yeah, okay. So what we decided was that after the bleaching events in 2016-17, it was quite shocking and depressing what had happened, and we decided the best thing to do was to try and do something rather than just bemoaning the fact that it was going to all be looking a lot worse. And we both, my husband and I, both got background in aquaculture and commercial fishing and diving, and so we're used to having to try and solve problems. The main criteria for setting up these nurseries was to get materials that are readily available. And as you can see, there's that aluminium mesh that is used in security screens. And you can buy that anywhere in Australia very easily. And also Bessa blocks, which are about $4 each at your local hardware store. And we get restaurants and different companies to lend us their, I think they're 20-litre drums. And on that video, you can see a rope going upwards, and there is actually two 20-litre drums on each nursery holding it up. So that means that the platform is then suspended in mid-water, and we got permits from GBR MPA to collect wild corals. And the program really revolved around a partnership between ourselves, so tourism sector and science. So we got on board with Dr. Emma Camp and Dr. Dave Suggett from UTS Sydney, and they're involved in coral adaptation and heat tolerance of corals. So they're able to study the genetics of different corals that we grow and work out why or what traits there is that allow corals to be heat tolerant. So the idea is that you can asexually reproduce these colonies. So you break up a colony, or you break a little piece off, and then you can spread that out over the frame, and gradually over a period of about 18 months, that will grow into a whole section of new colonies, sort of one big one, or spread out depending on how it ends up growing. And at some later date, if you wish, you can then break that up again and take the little pieces and then attach them onto the reef.
And what kind of results are you seeing?
Well, it's been quite phenomenal. It's amazing and so heartening to see that the corals on the nursery grow incredibly well, and the parrotfish learn to graze the algae on the frame, so you don't need to clean them by hand. And then you get all sorts of little fish starting to come and live in the nurseries that wouldn't otherwise have any habitat. Well, so you're basically providing extra habitat, so additional fish to those living on the reef have got somewhere to carry on. And yeah, when we're putting the corals out on the reef, about 90% of them survive if the temperature is right. We've had a few ups and downs with learning that if the temperature is too low or too high, obviously they can have problems with disease or just, I suppose, just straight stress. But generally speaking, the coral is very adaptable, and presumably, when you have a cyclone come through or anything like that, a lot of it gets smashed up and left out on the reef, and it's got to very quickly reattach to the reef if it's able to, and then continue to grow. So you're basically just utilizing that adaptation to provide extra coral cover. So a lot of our sites, we've dramatically increased the hard coral cover, and we don't do it for soft corals. And yeah, it makes it very interesting and very heartening to be able to make a difference.
So you've actually got the sites you frequently work at, the sites you take snorkelers to, you've actually managed to substantially increase coral cover.
Yeah, that's correct. Yeah, noticeably. So and the great thing is that we have a patent on this little coral clip which you hammer into the reef, and the species that are really very easily able to be replanted are the ones that seem to suffer most from bleaching. So the plate corals are the ones that we particularly like to plant. They're incredibly easy to grow on the frames, and also very easy to replant out on the reef. And with these clips, we can attach them to vertical surfaces, which is where they would naturally be growing anyway. And traditional methods of attaching corals to the reef wouldn't allow you to do that. So it's been really interesting.
It's absolutely amazing. I've got some video here from your Facebook site of you mentioned parrotfish a moment ago, the beautiful parrotfish that graze the algae from the frames, but there is a parrotfish that everybody loves. It's one that you're not quite so keen to see on your sites. We'll start with this video. There's a group lurking. Just take me through how this makes you feel.
Yes, this is one of our sites called Blue Lagoon, and it has an amazing topography, very clear water, very strong currents, which is why the coral grows so well. And these bumphead parrotfish, this looks like a spawning aggregation. It was around about December that we saw these guys. The only problem is that they're incredibly, incredibly large, and you see that mouth? Well, they can really go at your corals, and unfortunately, every now and again, they do a bit of a number on some of our nurseries. It's quite interesting what they do. They seem to, if you've got branching corals on the nurseries, they nip off the growing buds, and it's quite amazing. The coral's obviously very used to this, because within about 3 weeks, you'd barely notice it had happened. But yeah, still in all, a show like that could do remarkable damage in just a few minutes.
It is amazing. They're one of those fish that we all love to see when we're out there. And as you say, they are very selective. They're very selective on what they do, and I'm sure they're almost pruning like a bonsai master in a way. But it doesn't really help when you've got tiny little newborn corals on your thing. But it just goes to show how much there is to see out there, and some of the marvels of what you can see on the Great Barrier Reef. Final question, really. What are the experiences knowing this? What are the experiences guests have, and how do you think it changes them, and what hope does that give you for the future?
Yeah, well, tourism seems to sort of have a bit of a bad press, and people think, oh gosh, maybe I shouldn't go and see the reef because I might damage it. But I think if you're well educated about what you're going to be doing, so one of the huge no-nos that we have is that we really bring it home to people that the coral is alive, and standing on it is totally, unless you're about to drown, is not what you're meant to be doing. We actually, for that reason, we only take people that can swim on our tours, because we feel that is in order to be able to do marine biology education at the reef, and to have people all on the same page. We need to have everybody being able to swim, so that we're not just being lifesavers, but we can actually take people on the tour of the reef and point out things in situ. And I think that's one of the main things that people get from it, is having a marine biologist swim with them around the reef and just point out things and let them pick up. Well, the marine biologist occasionally, if there is something like a sea cucumber, not a leopard one, but one of you, like the pineapple sea cucumbers, can pick it up off the bottom, and people get to touch it, and and we can discuss all the fascinating things about sea cucumbers whilst you're actually seeing one, and just that tactile experience, and just the awesome beauty of the diversity of the reef, that people really, they get so much from it.
It's true, and I'm desperately keen to get back myself as soon as possible, as I'm sure many other people are. We could chat all day. I could chat all day easily on all these things. It's really nice to talk to you. It's really incredibly impressive what you're achieving, and I certainly obviously would encourage anyone listening to go up to head to Wavelength Reef Cruises website and consider a trip if you're up in Port Douglas, and to visit the Coral Nurture Program and read about that as well. Find out more about the work that's going on to try and save some of those patches of coral reef. Head to Ecotourism Australia, find out more about the companies on there. Obviously follow Wildiaries and come back and see a few more of the interviews we've got coming up. Jenny, thanks for your time again, and have a great day, and stay safe.
You too, and hopefully we can all get out there again very easily before all that much longer.
Yeah, let's hope.